What's up, y'all? This is your boy Gerald. It is Monday, the 25th, October 2016. How is everybody doing? How you doing? How was your weekend? Sidestepping the negativity, grounding your feet by placing God first in everything you're doing. I hope that this past weekend you were able to really tap into being at peace. How about allowing yourself to heal? I'll do one better. How about just to be, you know, rest, you know, what your body needs from the inside out, because everything that you need was given the moment you took your first breath, because that was the contract to be able to experience this existence. How about this experience? How about this viewpoint? You realize you're the only one that sees your reality. Do you realize that? Sure, you can be in a room full of people and look at the same thing, but only you, that's right, you see it the way you do. Why? Because it was blessed. It was custom tailored for you to embrace what was being revealed. But look here, y'all. There's a reason why I'm putting this video out this morning. I know y'all saying, well, you always say that, Gerald. There's always something on your spirit. There's always something you got to get out. You know why? Because it's for the intended heart, intended mind, and in the intended time, you'll get it. You'll have that epiphany and say, you know what? I heard that from somewhere. Where? Oh, that's what Gerald was talking about. You know why? Gerald don't have no agenda. I happen to be, I was at work last night and I saw that they did a story on 60 Minutes, and they were talking about all of a sudden how all these fellow social media people are financially benefiting, and how some are millionaires and how some are using advertisement for their platform because they may have XYZ people. Good for them. Why do I do it? Because there's no amount of money in the world that can be put in front of me to compromise your happiness. That's right. Your happiness is priceless. So what does that mean? Gerald don't have no agenda. Yeah, I'd like, if you feel something that I'm conveying and you want to put a little like out there, fine. But you know what I appreciate? You know what I appreciate? Is the fact that you give your time. That is so humbling to me, because we got almost 7 billion people on this planet, y'all. 7 billion. Everybody blinking and moving and twitching and going and coming and going. You have your own life. But what I saw, and I've always seen this little boy, just didn't understand what, is that the more we advance in society, the more divided we become. Everybody wants to yell peace, but really they're really saying, I want a peace. Everybody's screaming, I want unity, but no one's willing to listen. So if you can't listen, how can you not build a dialogue? One of the your greatest task, other than living in the body that you're in because you're a spiritual being first, that you will never master, which will take your entire existence, and that's communication. You know why? It's quite simple. Most people have problems with communication because they still do not know who they are. So if you do not know who you are, how can you properly express what defines you? I'll do one better. How can you know what peace is? How about joy? How about happiness? You know, there are actually people on this planet that think that that is something that has been socially engineered. No, those three things are descriptive words of love. The greatest example of love is you exist, which is really ironic because still in this age, people do not acknowledge that God exists. Now, at the end of the day, this is also free will. And this is also the reality of the devil's doing. This world is, hey, let's call it for what it is. This is the devil's kingdom. But the devil's a liar. The devil's a big chump. And that's why he can't afford for you to come into your own. Who am I talking to? See, those setbacks, those those tears that you shed that you didn't want nobody to see because you were convinced that if anyone saw you in that state of mind, they would deem you weak. Don't you realize that's what fortifies your strength? It also is what makes you more authentic. You don't believe me? Why you think we got so many little girls and grown women running around trying to act like boys? You are who you are. God didn't make no mistake. And it's an abomination for you to sit up here to engineer that thought process. But keep this in mind. If it didn't come from God, who did it come from? Huh? Think about it. If it didn't come from God, where did it come from? You do know demons are real, right? I ain't got to tell you. Remember that last disappointment you went through? How about that last interaction you went through and that behavior of what came out and it made you feel a certain kind of way? That was demonically influenced. I know somebody saying, yeah, you know why? See, listen, demons need a host. A host has to not know self. And since they don't know self, they don't know worth. And if they don't know worth, guess what? They darn sure don't know what being transparent is all about. And that's why they do so much. They spend more energy trying to dilute and deflect and keep you running around on the hamster wheel. Why? Because they get off on you. They get off on watching you struggle. How about better? They enjoy you doing their work. And what do you get in return? Frustration? Convoluted thought, because you think, well, if I put in the time, they'll see that I'm loyal. No, you're not loyal to them because they don't see your worth. Because if they saw your worth, why would they put you there to go through the experience by yourself? So let's turn the corner. Yes, right. You read the title, and I'm going to put this. I had to put this video out because I needed to put some clarity out there because the devil's work is never done, y'all. And the more and more that we go through time, the more and more people are allowing themselves to be indirectly influenced. There's a lot of people out here that want to convey what a soulmate is, what a twin flame is. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Because how can you sit up here and I'm going to pick my words, but I'm not going to dilute my truth. There are thousands and thousands of people that want to hitch upon what a twin flame is, what a soulmate is, what a soul contract is, soul family, all these words. But what is the common denominator? Soul. Yeah, you know, that little boy and that little girl that lives in you. The worst thing that you can do is convince yourself because of what the world sees that that's who you are. Because it's not. But you have some people, see, look, think about it. If people knew who they really were, right, and knew the value of their existence, why would you have sociopaths? Why would you have schizophrenics? Why would you have narcissists? Because those three things are personas engineered by the mind. You know your brain, the 6% that you only use, and look at the wonders that you're able to achieve. Part of it was divinely done when you were created. You don't actually think that you don't have a spiritual gift, do you? You actually believe you don't have a gift? But see, society wants to romanticize and add a whole lot of allegory to make up the things they refuse to speak about. Do you know who you are? Because if you did, why won't you protect it? I say this because, see, many people want the harvest, but they don't want to plant the seeds. The seeds are your efforts. The soil is your environment. Just as any book that is divinely used as doctrine, it is never forthright of black and white, or you can't just go and look at it and say, oh, okay, and it's spelled out for you. Why? Because it takes away from your growth. That's why everything written is written metaphorically. Why? To tap in to that beautiful brain of yours, that beautiful mind. I'll do you one better. If your brain was not powerful, why do you think people spent so much time in your environment to convince you other than calling you out your name? Why do you think people do that? Convince you to not see how unique yet priceless your life is. Come on now. What do I always convey to y'all? An opportunist does not need their help. No, opportunist does not need your help to expose themselves. You know why? If I turned around and said, here, take this, and you didn't know what it is, I could be giving you poison. Actually, this is Egyptian musk. It's really good too. I like my oils. But metaphorically, what I'm trying to say is people still will not give credit how perfect the human body is. In other words, man may master today, but man will never master forever. And for that, all things done with man's hands is made temporary. Some of y'all will get that. Because if it was meant to last forever, you could get it one time and it would last. Well, then that means people can't benefit off of your investment. The same way they benefit off of your focus, your time. Because time is your greatest commodity, y'all. You will never get back these last few minutes. You'll never get them back. But what you decide to do with them is the measurement. That is also what keeps me humble. I know the value of your time, and I treasure it. So let's go back to the main topic. Here's my concern. Now, there are many people that will take experiences and they will project it out in the mass. But what I have a problem with, well, it's not a problem, it's a concern, is you never hear them give proper credit where credit is. You never hear them talk about God. They'll turn around and use every kind of word and descriptive out there and have him sitting in the back seat. But don't you understand, if it was not for him, there would not be no you. Another thing that people fail to realize is there is what we know called spiritual hierarchy. You wouldn't put the cart in front of the horse. Well, you could, but how far would that get you? But society has so much investment to mislead you. See, I ain't got to tell you. Even mass communication has to take a bended knee to understand that the power of social media. They know this. They've known this for 20 years. How do you think social media came about? You think that this is given freely? Oh, I can just get on YouTube and I can just blah, 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 blah. No. First reason used for social media is data collection. If I turn around and put everything about myself out for the world consumption, well, guess what? It's going to sit on somebody's server forever. And as we progress through time, that's why now you look to the right, you probably look to the right, you see all these advertisements. And some of them you can recognize. Why? Because of algorithms. For those who do not know what algorithms is, your patterns, your behaviors. And there's a slight calculated percentage that you're going to repeat it. So guess what? Let's throw in Business 101. The probability that a consumer that was not a consumer is 50%, y'all. So if I constantly show you something, eventually you're going to embrace it or you're going to reject it. But one thing you're going to do is you're going to entertain it, which goes back to what? Free will. Because at the end of the day, you have the two greatest gifts that God ever gave man. The number one was unconditional love, to love yourself. That's why it's in the Bible, to thyself be true. Honor thy neighbor as I honor thyself. Why? Because the people in your environment are mirror reflections of who you are within your spirit. Why do you think your challenges are custom tailored the way only you can relate? But when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, they can relate what you're saying. Why? Because we're talking spiritual. The spiritual. That's where you hear about the term kindred spirits. That's also when you hear about the term soulmate. How about twin flame? So I'm putting this out here for that because I know some of y'all been waiting. When you gonna talk about it, Gerald? I'm gonna do it right now. I feel your energy. I feel it. Number one, let's talk about soulmates. Society, I can say at least for the last 15 years, has realized the monetary gain in using that as subject. Yes, there's a lot of money to be made talking about the good old soulmates and twin flames and karmic mates and kindred spirits and soul contracts. There's a lot. Millions and millions of dollars are made every day. But guess what? There's no accountability there. Nope. There's no accountability, and unfortunately, the person that may be seeking validation, information, or even clarity, there's a level of responsibility that should be administered. A lot of people will use this subject matter and project out what their interpretation of that is. Yet, once again, God ain't nowhere in it. I heard somebody say, I knew that was my soulmate because I saw it in the tarot card. I knew my twin flame was coming because I saw it on the Ouija board. Now, you do understand, y'all, if some of y'all don't, we live in a 3D or third dimensional realm. And there's a 5D dimensional realm. But here's the thing. People are willfully placing themselves in harm's way. Because you know what's in that 5-dimensional realm? Demons. See, there is a spiritual veil, y'all, that separates the spiritual world compared to the earthly realm. And every day since the beginning of time, there's been a spiritual battle. It's been a spiritual battle, y'all, because you got to understand, God gave his number one angel, Lucifer. You may know him as the day star, the morning star. Now keep this in mind. Satan was the most beautiful, most intelligent, most wise in the angelic hierarchy. However, it was his pride and ego that got him cast from his placement, which was on the right side of the seat of God. Did that need to happen? No. I imagine when that conversation first, because God is all knowing, he came to Lucifer and said, hey, look here. You don't think I don't know what you're doing? You don't think that your influence has an effect on the angelic hierarchy? They look to you. However, you don't listen to me. Which goes back to this. There would not be angels if there was no God. But yet, man, every day, has the audacity to convince himself that he is God. Did y'all forget the Tower of Babel? How you think we got the 12 tribes? Why do you think we had the great flood? And why do you think the earth still to this day trembles? It is said that when a fool realizes that God exists, the earth shakes. Well, I don't know the ages or your identities of who will see this video, but I can assume that you can at least attest that for the last 15 years of your life, what's been going on? There's been mass devastation in areas that should not. There's been mass flooding in areas that should not. There's been mass fires and pillage and scourge. Why? Because God is tired. And it was prophetically written in that doctrine that you pray from. May it be that Bible. May it be that Quran. May it be the Torah. But one thing is for sure, he made it known. So, we live in an age where what is down is looked at up, and what is up is looked as down, and what is wrong is honored and celebrated, and what is should be sacred is mocked and cast. And we wonder why the world is in the midst of what it is. The reason for that is because we've been in the last days. And as the stars ascend its placement in the earth, some bright, some not, they shine, letting us know another day, another time has passed, letting us know what's to come. But let me go back to my main point. So, you have a lot of people that want to step into the spiritual and they want to talk about soulmates. Soulmates are nothing but extensions of love, the expression of love. That's what they are. That's why when you are in contact with someone and you feel that you intellectually are in sync, they can sometimes finish your sentence. You feel and express the same. That is the commonality of the spirit. It is also the degree of where you are of intellectually understanding too. But let's go back. It still is a reflection of God's love on your life. We can simplify it and say, real simple. God is love. Well, guess what? Love don't hurt. It should be the example of empowerment. Why? Because in the truest sense, it makes who you are, every fiber, come to be. Well, how's that have an effect on karmic people, Gerald? What about them karmic people, Gerald? You know who those karmic people are? They are nothing but a physical, emotional, sometimes financial manifestation in a physical form of the things you have yet to master. How about the things that you have in denial? You know, those secrets, mm-hmm, that shame, that deep down resentment that you hold. How about grudges? Some of y'all walking around every day with a wound that is so deep that it has a life of its own. Don't trigger me. Don't say that. Don't say that, Gerald, because I'll go snap off. Why? Because I'm telling the truth. People spend time in their mind and they think, well, you know what? That was me back in the day, Gerald. You know, I was ripping and running. You know, I was doing things I know I shouldn't have done, but I was young. You know, I was young. No, you were manipulated. Your perception was influenced by the environment that displayed it. So if you saw mama always coming in with a new friend, and in the back of your mind you said, I would just wish I was with my daddy, but daddy never came, sooner or later you had to make a choice to condone it or reject it. But if you didn't understand what was being shown, which was an example, it also became your behavior. Who am I talking to? You do understand, alcoholics ain't born, they're taught. And that's why I'm really concerned because, see, millennials, hear my words. Do not burn through your life like a candle in the wind. Do not do that. If you don't know, you don't know. And maybe you're not supposed to know. But just know all things meant for your life will be revealed in the intended time. That's why we have such an influx of young women wanting to play grown women games and seasoned women trying to turn back the hands of time. But hear my call. What about that little girl that lives inside you? See, right now, there's a war going on for your perceptions because there's a lot of money to be made. If there was no money to be made, they wouldn't give it a platform. And what's been going on? Instead of feeding this, I want to feed that. Kind of like walking in a field of cattle. What happens to the cattle? Eventually, they are groomed, bred, and led to slaughter. Some don't even make it that far because the worth is not there and they are put down. Kind of what's going on now, isn't it? No one wants to be bothered with you. Just know God's got something better, but you got to prepare for it. But what that got to do with karmic people, Gerald? Quite simple. See, karma is nothing but a word that reflects life cycles. And the things that you choose not to embrace, you will go through a season forced to learn it. How about until you take accountability of it? Because see, how can you know what's a want compared to a need? Well, those people that are going through their karmic cycles, guess what? They're learning that. They're learning that wholeheartedly. Why? Because it's teaching you to see the value of your life. But let's talk about your life. Are you living it? Or are you just going through the flow of your existence? There's a difference. See, you know, I always say 50% of the people on this planet do not know who they are. You know why? Because they do not know what intimacy is. Your first example or template of what intimacy is your connection with God. That is also the blueprint that is instilled in your self-worth and value. That's why you always hear me say, place God first in everything you do. You know why I say that? Because if you place God first in everything you do, God is going to protect you from the things you have yet to know. How about the things that are going on in your environment? How about the things that are occurring, waiting to trip you up? How about delay you? That's why some of you are, your life is like you're in a holding pattern. You're saying, I didn't see that before, Gerald. You know why you're seeing it again? Because you're not embracing it. So society said, well, you know what? I can make a buck off of that. Sure can. Since she don't see her worth, I'm going to exploit her. So you have a lot of social pimping going on now. Economic pimping going on right now. And meantime, bad behavior is being celebrated. Yeah, it is. And they splash that all over media. Yeah. And for the impressionable, there's a little girl, a little boy says, I want to be just like him. But they don't see you. But what you don't see is that real person. Kind of like what is the one thing that absorbs most time in mass media? Reality TV. But we all know that is not a reflection of reality. The only reality in that is promotion of alcoholism and being promiscuous and defiling your body and unfortunately impacting your mind. How about drug use? But yet we still have STDs every day. You still won't hear, hey, we got a cure for AIDS. Mm-mm. Why? Because there are some people that are tired of you. And they say, well, that's nothing but population control anyway, so let them die. Which brings me to my point. Soul contracts. What are soul contracts? Soul contracts are lessons that impact your development of your life, which is your knowledge. It also reveals your purpose. You know, there are people that have no clue of why they're on this planet. It's because they can't see their purpose. They can't see their purpose because they don't know who they are. They can't understand who they are because they don't have a connection within themselves. How about a connection with God? You see that all the time because these people are very arrogant. They're very shallow. They have a position that the world owes them, and they want the maximum with little investment. Little do they see that truck that's getting ready to come to knock them on their butt. Listen, you want to know about soulmates? I can nip this in the bud right now. You want to know if that's your soulmate? Have that conversation with God. Start praying. Give thanks for your life. You know, there are people that are waking up, can't move their hands, can't blink, can't walk. I happen to see, I don't know how I stumbled on, I saw this blog, and there was this guy talking about how he can't use his intestines. He has a glossary bag, and he's only 41 years old. I'm like, wow, you still got a whole lot of life left. Which makes me go back to think this. If you're under the age of 35, let me tell you something. You have no clue on who you are. You don't. This is not shade. This is not disrespect. This is truth. The mindset that you have when you're 35 is not going to be reflected when you're 25. The mindset that you have at 25 should not reflect the mindset of a 21-year-old. And the mindset of a 21-year-old should not reflect one that is 16. But life is progressive. Time does not stop. Therefore, it's important that you treasure it. But here's the hard part. Who told you not to love you? Who told you that? Who told you that your life is to be the indentured fool? I'm saying this out of love. And if you're feeling a certain kind of way, you should. Why? Because you've been deceived all this time. So, you want to know who your soulmate is? Build your connection with God. Because guess what? Your soulmate, they're going to have a relationship with God too. God is love. Love does not hurt. So if God if love is a reflection of God and God created you, but yet you're suffering with them, I guarantee you a nickel to a dime, they don't have a relationship with God at all. They have a relationship with themselves, physically. You don't believe me? Think back. When the last time y'all had a conversation about God? And watch them react. They'll look at you like you're a fish out of water. Why? Because they can't relate. They'll quickly mentally turn the channel on you. Why? Because these people are carnal. They believe on this, not this, not him. That's okay. Because as you grow through life, you're constantly learning. You're constantly growing. You're not supposed to be stagnant. But those people that are karmic are just simply a reminder of what you need compared to what is only an illusion. So these people are going to come constantly as long as that spiritual door is open. Why? Because until you decide to love yourself, you're exposed. And the devil knows that. You don't believe me? Watch this. Think about that moment when you happen to be out and about, and the one thing that you lacked, the one thing that was a desire, it crossed your mind. I don't know, whatever it was. But you felt it in your heart. And next thing you know, there it was. And for a minute, you thought this was heaven sent, but it really was hell. Why? Because that's what the devil does. Oh, you want that handsome man that looks like this and talks like that and persists that? Sure. But guess what? He will never love you because he doesn't love himself. Hence, example of a karmic person. And the longer and longer that you try to stay in that position, the harder and harder it gets. It could be sex. So he treats me like garbage, Gerald, but his loving is good. I'm just under his spell. Hello? Karmic influence. He gives me all I want, but I feel frozen. Karmic influence. Now, for those who proceed to stay on that path and you say, I don't care, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right, guess what happens? Sooner or later, you get this. You enter into a phase where your spirit has to be washed. And I know the devil is trying to do his work because he wants to block what I'm conveying to someone, because the term is being delayed in my spirit. So I'm going to go around that because the devil's a liar. Your emotions feel literally like you are in a spin cycle. In literal terms, you feel like you're having a nervous breakdown. Your world feels like it's getting closer and you can't breathe. And you just want to be. That ain't nothing but demonic influence. But guess what? A lot of it's fear. You know, fear. Finally, everything's a reality. But here's another thing about that. As long as you stay continue to connect with him, God, guess what? He gonna bring you through it, just like he brought you through that last snafu. Yeah, that one. The one you didn't want nobody to know about, and you knew if it came out, you would not be able to lift your head if they knew what was really going on. How about behind closed doors? But you know what? I tell everybody this all the time. You do yourself a disservice to hold secrets or to condone them, because those same things will end up being your lessons. And here's the kicker on that. The intended person that the secret's about, they know. They know it. If they're connected with God, they discern. They know exactly how and who. And guess what they do? They stay prayed up. And guess what? It's revealed. No, nobody has to go snooping. That's the beautiful thing about discernment. Discernment reveals all. How about them lucid dreams you have? Pretty vivid these days, ain't it? But the one piece may be, I can see them, Gerald, but I can't see their face. But I see the experience. Sometimes you learn indirectly through other people's experiences. God will do that. He'll let you lean as close as you can and bring you right out of it. Why? Because he wants you to see it and bear witness firsthand without the effect. He's sending you that message because, look, at the end of the day, he's been there the whole time. It's not his responsibility to come get you. He created you. So why do you think he's suffering? And karmic people know that. Karmic people know because they're in denial. But guess what? That's a choice. That's free will. But I'm going to bring this home. And this has to be conveyed. Because see, at the end of the day, what's at stake is your life. How you interpret it. Because there's a spiritual battle. And there is a responsibility, y'all. While you are surfing the web, be leery of who the messenger may be. Be leery of that. Because guess what? You think the devil don't have people doing the same thing? Yes. If their conversations have no God's not in that, that ain't the message. That's the distraction. And really what you may be witnessing is that person is using that platform to deflect and not take ownership of what their experience is. You got to understand something, y'all. From a literal sense, nobody can do anything to you unless you allow it. Why? That's free will. And those same people, guess what? They still don't understand the power of the word no. The word no does not mean forever. It means under review. It's not of your standards. So if they value you, why would they give you just anything? And if they just give you anything, then that should tell you how they see you. Because anybody that truly, genuinely appreciates you, they're going to come correct. They're not going to compromise themselves just to be in your presence. But an opportunist, opportunists love to get on buses going to somewhere, because anything that can distract them from what they need to do, they on that, only to end up right where they ended, where they began. So I know there's a lot of new agers out there, and they're breaking out those tarot cards, they're dealing with the occult. But let me tell you something. The devil needs your help for your possession to destroy your life. You do understand that, right? That's why in the Bible it said that for him to flee, you must acknowledge God's presence. You can't walk it, you got to be it. Because the devil can't be where God reigns over, and you're his child. So, what it boils down to is this: soulmate, twin flame. Twin flame is the educator. They're the epitome of the lesson. Well, that's why twin flame, Gerald. Guess what? You'll spend you'll be spending a great deal of your life focusing on them. But guess what? They're not going to be in your life. They may be the personification of the example. But just know this: if it was meant for you to have, why won't it be? And I will tell you this, because I know somebody is probably saying, well, Gerald, I appreciate that, but I know that this person is my twin. Why would God put you in a position to watch you suffer? Why would he do that? Can people change? People change every day. And what you might think is a blessing, the blessing may be that you're not there. Do you realize how many people have the picture perfect life, but they're suffering? It's because they put their ego and pride before their happiness. Oh, I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to do it for the kids. But you're teaching your kids what love isn't. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I don't need him. I don't need him to raise you. You my son, you my mama, and my daddy. How crazy is that? At the end of the day, the child suffers. So I say this to each and every one of you. Do you know who you are? Do you? Honestly. Because if you knew who you are, you wouldn't go through what you're going through. You would do everything to protect your happiness by being transparent with yourself. You don't need permission from outside your world, outside your door, to love you. You don't need permission outside your door to grow. And you don't need permission outside your door to suffer in silence if you love yourself. See, right now everybody is running around trying to find an answer, but everything you need was given the moment you took your first breath. Why do you think we have generational curses? Why? Because someone had a lesson, an experience that ended up becoming a behavior that was transcended into the young. And guess what? An impressionable mind can be trained. So if you don't like what Junior's doing, remember you were Junior's first example. But see, people don't want to talk about that. Place God first in everything you do. You can't go wrong. And don't trip. God said it best. Vengeance is his. Why? Because he loves you. He's a custom tailored God, but he is also a jealous and loving God. That's why 1 minute people might be on top of the hill, the next minute they have fallen. Maybe everything that went on was to set up the greatest level, the greatest lesson ever. Loving you. Be blessed, y'all. You're worth it.